All right, good morning, everyone. Let's get settled in here. Let's make sure that we've got something up on the screen, guys. Is that working for you back there? Right, only that you have there it is. There it is, excellent, okay. So what we're talking about this morning is social media advertising. So we spent some time on Friday, I believe it was, talking about Advertising 101. What did we say that Advertising 101 was? Old school is? It's still in session, thank you. At least one person was listening. So this time we want to spend a lot of, 30 minutes exactly, 29 minutes now, talking about social media advertising. A lot of people are asking the question, how do we move from social media, social engagement into sort of an advertising-based engagement? How does our local church, how does our conference, how does our school begin to understand the value of, and not only the value of, but also the mechanics of advertising and marketing on social media platforms and social media sites? So let's go through it a little bit at a time. The first question is, why social media, right? Why social media? But before we answer that question, I must say this. Please don't abandon traditional forms of advertising and marketing for social media. In other words, this is not an either-or world. This is a both-and world. So just because of the fact that many, many companies, as you can see, are running towards social media and pouring thousands and millions and billions of dollars, pounds, and euros into social media advertising, don't think that your organization should abandon the traditional forms and then move toward only social media. So keep that in mind. It is a both-and world. Both-and world. Now, why social media? Because in real estate, the three words that define real estate are what? What do they say about real estate? What's the most important thing about real estate? Location, 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 right? Social media also has three words, right? They are traffic, 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 right? Traffic, traffic, traffic. Now, imagine that social media advertising is akin to you and I driving down the road and seeing a billboard. Only imagine the billboards, the big, big billboards along a very, very busy, busy highway. Those are the most expensive ones. Why? Because of traffic, 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 right? So those are the most expensive billboards. Now, for the last umpteen years, decades, a billboard has shown only one ad as those hundreds of thousands of drivers every day drive by it. One ad. Now, we're moving from that in the last 10 years to what? Digital billboards, which do what? Rotate through several ads. Every few seconds, there is another ad. Now, more revenue for the company and so on and so forth, right? More exposure to different products. Imagine with me for a second that you're driving by the billboard that you pass every day to work. It's a digital billboard, but every time you pass it, that billboard changes to an ad that intersects with your life. In fact, the billboard changes to a product that you were searching for on Google last night. Imagine if we lived in that kind of a world. We're not actually very, very far from that. But this is exactly what social media advertising does. In other words, social media kind of as a landscape features, as you can see in a second, over 1 billion people constantly passing this billboard, and it changes every time a unique individual passes by it. So in other words, it allows for very unique advertising to be targeted to very specific people who are constantly passing by the place where you want to intersect with them. Okay, so social media is all about traffic, 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 and that's what's important. Take a look at these, and again, I'm so sorry for the small font, but I will read this to you as we go through it. I want to read to you some statistics, and here they are. Current social network users, 1.73 billion people. These are regular users around the world of social media networks of all kinds. 1.73 billion people along this highway, as we used the metaphor earlier. 2.55 billion people estimated will be active social media users by 2017. Facebook's population is now as big as the entire world's was in 1804. You hear that? Facebook's population is bigger now than it was in 1804 around the world. 72% of online adults use social networking sites. Facebook averages an average of 3.74 degrees of separation. Did you hear that? Do you know what the degrees of separation, the 6 degrees of separation argument is? That you and I, no matter where we meet on the face of the planet, if you and I start a conversation and we're complete strangers, we're only 6 hops away from each other. In other words, you know someone that I know and you, so on and so forth. In 6 people, you and I know each other. Well, on Facebook, they have just announced very recently that degrees of separation has gone down to 3.74 on Facebook. What has that done? That has shrunk the world tremendously for those 1+ billion people that are only on Facebook, right? Just on Facebook. Let's keep going. $4.6 billion, this is in the United States of America, $4.6 billion spent by enterprises on social media in 2013, and then more than 250 million tweets and 800 million Facebook status updates are published every single day. Do you know what these statistics equal to? Traffic, traffic, traffic. In other words, there are lots of people on this highway called social media, right? So in terms of advertising, if any executive, if any administrator would ever ask you the question, now why would we advertise on social media? The very first thing that you need to say is because there are lots and lots of people who will be seeing our ad. Right? Or potentially could be seeing our ad. Second set of statistics very quickly. This is more about marketers and advertisers. In other words, enterprises and companies and how and why they use social media for advertising. First one, 90% of Inc. 500. I need to explain that. In the United States, we have the Fortune 500 companies, which are the biggest companies, but the Inc. 500 companies are the fastest growing companies in the United States. They're growing by leaps and bounds, and they make this Inc. 500 list. So 90% of the Inc. 500 companies in the US use at least one major social media platform, and 62% say social media is either somewhat or very necessary to their growth. Bullet point number 2, while 31% of businesses overall have no social media policy in place, that is only true for 22% of Inc. 500 firms, right? So what, 78% of Inc. 500, the fastest growing firms, have a social media strategy. 3/4 of marketers planned to increase strategic efforts on social media and social networking sites this year, with 68% also focusing more on SEO or search engine optimization and 63% on blogs. And then listen, a whopping 95% of small businesses view blogging as an effective marketing technology. We're going to talk about that just a little bit later. Tool, second only to email marketing. And then 47% of Americans say that Facebook has a greater impact on their purchasing behavior than any other social network. So those are statistics that remind us that because there is lots of traffic, marketers and advertisers are spending lots and lots of money using social media to reach people. Now, it's not just about the traffic. You realize that, right? There is a massive, massive component to this thing we call social media that has a whole lot more to do with the fact that you can reach an individual in very customized ways than it has to do with the fact that there are a whole bunch of individuals. And here's what we're talking about. There is this thing that I think all of us have heard of called big data. And so companies are turning to social media for their advertising outputs. Why? Because you have tons of traffic, and then you have this phenomenon called big data. So let's talk about big data just a second. What is big data? Well, let me read you the scientific definition of big data. There it is. Big data is high volume, high velocity, high veracity, and or high variety information assets that require new forms of processing to enable enhanced decision-making, insight discovery, and process optimization. That is a mouthful, right? So let me read it to you in English. I came up with a definition that I think is much more memorable than the first one. Here it is. Big data is the sum total of everything that takes place under the sun, captured in various ways and stored on massive hard drives and made available to anyone wanting to make informed decisions, right? That's big data. So in other words, what happened over the last 10 or 15 years as the internet developed is those who were behind the scenes, kind of the wizards behind the curtain of the internet, decided, hey, let's make sure that we capture all of this activity that is happening under the sun within the context of life online. We capture it all because one day it will become valuable. That is today. So all of this data from the past and from the present and anything in the future as it happens is being captured on massive hard drives around the world. And then there are companies who specialize in taking that massive amount of data and making it palatable to you and to me who are marketers and advertisers, okay? Let's see actually a couple of examples of how big data is used, all right? So we're going to go to the web. Let's see if we can do this, and I want to show you a couple of things. First thing I want to show you is Google Trends. I don't know, have any of you gone ever to Google Trends, right? All right, like half a dozen of you. The rest of you need to go on Google Trends this afternoon. You will be absolutely amazed. So here is what you can see. Google is one of those companies, a mega company that takes and has access to a ton of that big data and is able to to make it available to consumers in this fashion. For instance, let's take a look at these. And by the way, can we turn off these front two lights? I think it may help, like we did yesterday. That would be really, really helpful, I think. Okay, so if you can see there, this is Google Trends, and what they're doing is they're telling you of everyone who searched on our search engine, this is essentially what we were searching for in the year 2013. So they have kind of a last year. There you can see it is. You can't see this part, but it says United Kingdom over here. So automatically, you've got football stars and 2013 events. So this is catered to where we are right now. You can choose your area of the world and so on and so forth. And you can also go to this Zeitgeist here. It says, you can see up here, it says Launch Zeitgeist. And it'll give you all sorts of, well, in fact, let's try it. It'll give you all sorts of charts about the searches on Google. So you can imagine, the Google is the #1 used search engine in the world, all right? What's fascinating, right, is to see what people searched most about. #1, oddly enough, the death of Paul Walker, right, the actor. #2 was the iPhone 5S. Boy, Steve Jobs would have been upset at that. And then #3, the royal baby, right? Your royal baby here in this part of the world. And so you can begin to see what was trending in 2013. As you can see, there are all kinds of different charts that Google offers you. Then, let's go back, and you can see that on the left side, you can see what's trending now, right? What is trending literally right now? What are a lot of people searching for at this time? Then actually at the bottom, this is my favorite part, you can see here it says visualize hot searches, okay? So these are hot searches, and it gives you just 3 of them here. This is in real time what people are searching for all over the world, and it takes the top searches and it populates the hot searches with them, okay? So here we go. I want to show you what you can do. You can actually create a whole screen, and we can watch in real time what's happening around the world, what people are searching for, right? Pastors, you interested to know what culture is seeking, what questions are being asked? There it is, right there, right? Around the world. So this is really, really a fascinating application of how Google, as one company that crunches big data, gives us access to what is happening in different parts of the world. There's a Crimean War, Oscars 2014, right? You can begin to see what people are searching for. Okay, so that is Google Trends. Let's move on. Have any of you ever heard of Google Flu Trends, right? Yes, so you know what Google announced? They said, listen, we don't need, in the United States, we don't need the Centers for Disease Control based in Atlanta, Georgia. We have our own methods for determining where flu outbreaks will take place in the United States, and as you can see, actually, around the world. How do they do this? Because they crunch the amount of searches that people are searching for homemade remedies for the flu, nearest pharmacy, right, Tylenol, this, they're actually crunching this data, and they're able to tell us with incredible amount of precision where the flu epidemic is happening more or less in the in the entire world. So now you can see here, if you go over the United States, you can say flu activity low. Now, look at here, in Russia, flu activity is high, right? In Canada, it is moderate, and so let's just see if we click on the United States. You can see that we're doing all right. None of our states are high at this point in time. We've kind of gotten over the flu season, right? Hawaii, for some reason, has moderate flu activity. Isn't that amazing? This is all from big data being crunched down to something that makes sense for human beings, and you can actually then see right here a graph, and what you can't see is all of these lines that are just a little lighter, that actually tells you throughout the year how the flu sort of epidemic worked its way through the country or wherever you're searching for. Okay, so those are a couple of things that I wanted to show you with regards to big data. Now, let me tell you a couple of things that I won't show you. So how many of you use on your smart device the traffic function? So when you're in traffic, you look and you see whether there's a red line or a green line for the next 5 miles, so that you can tell whether you're going to veer off that course or you're going to stay on that course, right? In the US, we do this all the time using Google Maps or the iPhone map, right? Those traffic patterns, those red lines that tell you that for the next 3 kilometers, you've got really, really heavy traffic. Have you ever wondered how your iPhone or your Android phone is able to actually feed you that information? Well, it doesn't come necessarily from traffic cams, right? Traffic cameras. Now, you guys in Great Britain here have a whole lot of cameras, right? I mean, we can see that, right? But let's say in the US, we don't, and specifically in the rural areas, there are no traffic cameras. But you can still see the red line any time of day or night, or the green line telling you that traffic patterns are bad or really heavy. How do they do this? They do this because they take the aggregate information provided by cell phones equipped with GPS devices, right? And they're constantly sending this information back up to companies like Google, who operate Google Maps, right? And they stream it right back to you to say there is traffic for the next 3 kilometers because about 200 of you are telling us that simultaneously. Why? Because you're creeping along at a very, very slow pace. This is not hidden information. This is not like National Security Agency type of stuff. You can Google it and find out very quickly that this is the way that big data is being crunched in order to sort of feedback information that you and I can use to make what? Informed decisions. Now, yes, there are a lot of ethical considerations with all this stuff, but this morning we're simply talking about advertising and marketing. Okay, so let's then move to how this is done, right? Oh, by the way, the other thing I wanted to tell you is that in the United States, there is a real estate company that allows you to search for real estate that you want to purchase, your home, based on drive time. And so if you say, look, I want a great house, but I do not want to drive over 30 minutes back and forth to work. So you put in that as a consideration, and it uses big data to then say, okay, the only homes that qualify for you are these dozen homes right here, within your price range and within your drive time. And it's not just based on distance, it's based on this very thing that I was just telling you about, the average drive time based on traffic patterns and so on and so forth. That's an absolutely remarkable thing. So how does it work? How does leveraging big data work for advertising and marketing on social media platforms? There you can see kind of a cycle, and it begins with the fact that we have 1.73 billion people online, and specifically online on social media sites, and they are there posting and telling us what their interests are. How do we do this? We are doing this right now. Every single one of these tweets is telling Twitter, and thus a whole bunch of other organizations that are purchasing the data from Twitter, what you are and who you are and what the stream of activity in your life is, right? So we either tell the social media networks what our precise interests are by tweeting specific words, or even in Facebook, for instance, filling out our profile where we say we like this kind of music, or we love that kind of food, or so on and so forth. We list our precise interests, or we do it passively or indirectly by liking and following and so on and so forth. So all of this activity is sent up the pipe, and then the big data centers collect it, and then other organizations take that collected data and they crunch it and they make it available, this time to advertisers, as you can see up there. So we have 1.73 billion people creating interests and self-profiles, either directly or indirectly. Then we have those interests fed on a silver platter to advertisers. To advertisers who say, look, I want to reach this type of person specifically with this type of interest, specifically in this area of the world, and it gets even better than that, specifically in this city, specifically within blank miles or kilometer radius of this particular city. There is no form of advertising under the sun other than online advertising that can get that specific, and in a second I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so let's kind of do a case study and look at Facebook. Facebook allows you to place an ad, and this morning we're going to kind of go through that and how you place an ad on Facebook, and you'll begin to see that it is quite easy and quite powerful. So let's look at the screen there, and I don't think this guy works anymore, but there it is. Right on the right-hand side, where it says create ad, this is found on the right-hand column of your Facebook page. So if you see the right-hand column with all the kind of the banner traditional advertising on the right-hand side, you can see there, if you log on to Facebook at some point in time, you'll see that it says create ad. Well, from there, let's skip to where we would have created an ad. So now we're going to go back to our web browser, and this is what you would see once you answer the question, what kind of ad do you want to place, right? And I have clicked clicks to website, because what I'd like to do is I'd like to advertise an event that I'm having in the area, and I've built a website for it. I also have a Facebook page associated with it, and I'd like people, when they click on the ad, I'd like them to go to those places, right? I want to take them to where they can find more information out on this event, register free of charge or whatnot, right? So I clicked clicks to website. Now, you can come down here and you can see under images, that what you can do with images is you can actually put up to 6 different images in this area so that your ad doesn't always look the same, right? And so Facebook will sort of rotate through these images so that your ad doesn't look the same all the time, but that is an option that you have. Then we go down and we can then design our ad a little bit more, connect it to a Facebook page, but this is the part that I wanted you to see. So let me actually make it even larger, see if we can do that. There we go. Okay, so let's see if we can kind of go through this. As you can see, you can choose your location. So I've chosen United Kingdom and then London, and I've given it a 10-mile radius, right? And then below, I've chosen age 18 and up. By the way, it goes from 13 and up, so depending on what kind of age bracket you're looking for. In this case, we'll put 18 and up, all genders, and then here's a very interesting thing, education level. You can say, well, we'd like to reach everyone, or in this case, we'd like to reach folks who have a college degree and higher for one reason or another. And then below that, you can see more demographics, and you can choose more demographics from there. Now, let's go below, and this is where it gets quite interesting. Interests. So for instance, I said, well, what if we have some type of an event in London, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is putting on, that we are focusing on sort of healthy living, holistic living, and we want to target everyone in London who is on Facebook who has indicated either directly or indirectly that they have an interest in fitness and wellness. And so that I just put that there, fitness and wellness. And now let's see if we can get up to where this is, this little meter. Okay, here it is. Believe it or not, there are 2.4 million people out of 7.8 million with a 10-mile radius. There was 7.8 million people to begin with. We're down to 2.4 million people that have indicated one way or the other that they are interested in health and healthy living. Now, here's an interesting thing. We go up here and we say, okay, down to demographics, and we say we want everyone who is a college grad. Now you can see that number, where did it go? Went down to 1,040,000 people, right? So you can dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and then when you come down to the interests, okay, give me a subheader maybe within health and fitness. Just yell it out. Okay, let's do weight loss. Okay, there it is. Weight loss. Your ad is currently targeted. Do you want to narrow your audience to weight loss? Yeah, of course I want to. Let's narrow it down and see what happens, right? So now we want specifically people who are interested in weight loss. There it is. Now our potential reach is 200,000 people, right? You see how you can dig deeper and deeper and deeper until you get to a very specific population in the area that in the geographic area that you'd like to reach. Now, then you create your Facebook ad, and it is specifically sent only to those people. Is there any way that you could ever do that with a piece of direct mail that you send in the mail? Yes or no? No. So then here's where it gets interesting. Down here at the bottom, you work your way into pricing, and you can add what currency, of course, the account country, and so on and so forth, where the time zone, so it knows when to send these ads. And then at the campaign and budget, on the very last part here, you can see that you can set a budget. In this case, right here, we've got 40 euros per day, or you can set it to 5 euros per day, because you don't want to go over a certain amount. Or you can click on per day on the drop-down menu and set it to where it's basically for the whole campaign. Just don't run over this amount of money. And then at the very, very bottom, you can either, in pricing down here at the very bottom, you can either set it to automatic, which means that Facebook will create a price per click, right, that it believes is very, very, very advantageous for you, right? Or you can set it manually. And when you set it manually, Facebook normally gives you what it believes to be a fairly competitive bid. And that is, in this case, what the price that you see up there. And you can change it per click, right? You can say, I'd like to actually pay more. What do you think Facebook does when you pay more per click? It gives you preference, right? So if you have a bit of a bigger budget, go higher than the number that normally pops up in this box, and Facebook will say, okay, these guys are paying more, thus we're going to put them more on more sites. And what does that accomplish? Reach and frequency, remember? Reach and frequency. So Facebook, if you pay more, will show your ad more, right? And will show it to more people. So this is how you place a Facebook ad, and obviously Google has the same type of interface that you can use, and all over the internet. Now, let's go right back, because I think we are running out of time. Back to our PowerPoint, and let's move on to some types of social media advertising. And we'll run through these very, very quickly. The first kind of social media advertising that we see are traditional banner ads. These are the kind that really stick out like a sore thumb. These are the kind on your Facebook page, on your right column, that are really, really obvious. These are ads. Okay? Now then, there are others that run along a continuum. So take a look at this continuum. It is called the native continuum, or the social advertising continuum. And these are the various types of ads that run from left to right until we get to what is now the most talked about and the most kind of coveted type of ad, and that is called native advertising, native social media advertising. We start off with the classic banner, and the classic banner basically looks like this, like we talked to you about on the Facebook right-hand column, and you've seen other types of banner ads. They stick out like a sore thumb. The next one is called the tourist banner, right? Now, the tourist banner is the one outlined there in the orange on the right-hand side, and it is truly an ad, but you see how it kind of begins to mimic a little bit the page that it's on, but it really still does stick out, and that's why they call it a tourist banner. And you can have a number of different features on this ad, including social engagement, and that's what you don't see on there. You can share, you can do various things, so it begins to have a lot more features than the traditional banner. Next one is called the resident banner. We call this the in but not of, right, banner. And what this does is it begins more and more to mimic the data or the content on the page. So on the right-hand side, you have more from CNN. And then on the left-hand side, you have from around the web. Now, it looks like basically they're both from CNN or both from the search that you did on CNN. But in fact, this is on the left-hand side, all advertising, versus this on the right-hand side is the legitimate search results that you got from CNN or what CNN is recommending for more news. So you can begin to see that it mimics just even a little bit more. These are called the resident ads. Then you have the citizen ads, right? Now the citizen ads are presented more and more as part of the search results, as you can see now. And by the way, this orange highlighting is there only for the purpose of showing you the ad. If you remove the orange highlighting, you can see that it starts fitting in more and more with the search results or maybe your news feed in Facebook or so on and so forth. And this one is called the citizen ad, leading us all the way to what's called the native ad, which is a truly fully integrated ad. For instance, take this one in Facebook from the company 23andMe. They have a comment as if a human being has actually made a comment about this thing, and down here they have the image, and then obviously the connection to the website and so on and so forth. But see down here, you have likes and shares and comments, and this is truly as if, and you can like the page up here. This is truly as if your friend, right, happened to have shared something of interest, and now you are to follow up on it. Only in this case, it's an organization, it's a company, but it is truly a native ad that seeks to fit fully into the environment that you are on. Okay, so that is the native continuum, and ultimately you want to get to this native kind of ad. Now, all these companies, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, they will all help you place native advertising. You just may need to search a little bit for how to do it or call them. All of them have ways in which you can actually create native advertising, so be aware of that. Next, we want to talk very quickly about content marketing. Okay, and content marketing is a very different form of marketing. Ms. Kirsten, how many minutes do I have? Well? Done? Almost. Okay, we will finish it in about a minute. Content marketing is very interesting, and this is where you make a kind of a covenant with your audience, and you say, listen, we're not going to sell you the used car, but we're going to tell you all about the motor industry, the driving industry. We're going to give you tidbits on driving through your city. So what the company does is it feeds you valuable content and then allows for you to fall in love with the company. Why? Because they haven't just sold you products, they've sold you valuable information. So when it's time to make a purchase, where do you think you're going to go back to? Or where do you think you're sort of more inclined to go back to? The companies that did this. I have a couple of examples that I won't show you, but content marketing is all over the web, so be sure to look for it. Then finally, in my last 30 seconds, I will tell you very quickly about the return on investment for social media advertising, because everyone is asking that question. What is my return on investment? Well, here is the philosophy behind it. Take a look at the screen. Albert Einstein says, not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted, right? And what that means is that you cannot necessarily measure the return on investment of social media right now. Right? A lot of companies are changing their strategies based on what they're discovering, and this is what they're discovering. Number one, is that it can help you improve your online presence, right? Before we get to the metrics of direct purchasing and click-through rates and so on and so forth, it helps a company improve their online presence. The second thing that it does, as we go very quickly through it, is brand recognition. Brand recognition. So what helps is, not brand recognition, brand engagement actually is the second one. So now we have organizations who not only recognize who you are, but they are now engaging with your company, engaging with your product. They're sharing, they're commenting, they're all kinds of things, and that actually creates a return on investment. And finally, we get to sales and conversions, which do happen, but not as much as the return on investment that is based on the fact that now more and more people know who you are. And remember, if you were here for the Advertising 101 course, it gets you to where you're closer to the evoked set. So when people are trying to think of a particular product to purchase, or a particular type of event to attend, or a particular church to attend, you're closer to their evoked set, what they think of without even thinking of in 3 seconds. The return on investment for social media advertising is more and more an indirect return on investment rather than a direct return on investment, although direct return on investment is also there. There are lots of purchases that are made as direct results of social media advertising, but do not underestimate the value of building your brand using social media advertising. Thank you very much.